President Trump is talking about a possible third term, and it has a lot of people asking how that even would be possible. The 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, of course, sets 2 term limits for the president. But is there really a pathway to stay in office? And will this become a constitutional crisis? Joining us now is constitutional law expert Robert McWhirter. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning.
So the president has said there are methods to circumvent the 22nd Amendment. Is there any way to do that?
Yeah, if there's a coup. I mean, really, that's the only way that it can work. The 22nd Amendment is very clear. It says no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. And these little arguments that are being made to get around this just simply don't work. I can give you an example. I think Steve Bannon is saying, oh, well, it doesn't refer to consecutive. In other words, he had one term, then Joe Biden came in, and then he gets another one. So he gets 2 consecutive terms. That's just not what the 22nd Amendment says. And they specifically knew Ulysses Grant tried to do that, and it didn't happen. And so they could have written it that way, but they didn't. No person shall serve twice elected as president of the United States. That's it.
You know, Republican lawmakers and the White House spokesperson have all said that Trump was joking. But speaking of a coup, given the fact that his supporters mobbed the Capitol on January 6th, should we be taking a more serious look at these comments?
You know, it's hard to know how serious to take anything Donald Trump says. Yeah, there's things he was joking about that turned out to be really bad, and he actually intended to do it. And now everyone's walking around being shocked. Was he joking? Did he want to keep himself the center of attention? Did he want to draw attention away from other things that are happening? Is he flooding the zone so we're not paying attention to other things? It's really hard to know. But I would take a president very seriously. The Constitution is clear, and what he's telling everybody is he either doesn't understand the Constitution or he doesn't care what the Constitution says by that comment. You shouldn't joke about stuff like that.
Do you think this could be a constitutional crisis? I mean, we've all been talking about this plane that a federal judge ordered to turn around on its way to deport migrants, and then it was just ignored. That order was ignored by the Trump administration. Do you see that as a constitutional crisis? And could this order be ignored as well, or this precedent?
Yeah, I do think that is a constitutional crisis. It's part of an emerging crisis that's going on now between the Trump administration and the courts. So if he decides to file papers to start running, well, we've got a constitutional crisis right the moment he files, because the Constitution is very clear and it would be determined in the courts. And if he has a precedent of ignoring the courts, which is inherently un-American, but if he does it, we're in a constitutional crisis.
All right, before I want to let you go, I want to pivot a little bit. Today, the Supreme Court is considering whether a law subjecting Palestinian government organizations to federal court jurisdiction if they contribute to terror attacks against Americans violates the due process clause of the Constitution. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it very well could. Look, to be subject to the court's jurisdiction, you have to agree to it by some way. For instance, if you do business in the United States, then you're subject to our courts. What the Palestine Authority is doing, and formerly the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, are saying, look, we never agreed to this. And in fact, we're not the ones that actually did anything. We're not Hamas. And therefore, we're not subject to that jurisdiction, and we didn't get due process. This jurisdictional issue is part of due process. So they have a good argument. I think they're probably going to lose on that, but it's hard to predict. It's like reading tea leaves on that. This is real kind of lawyer inside baseball, this whole question.
It is. And isn't it largely symbolic? I mean, are they really going to round up the PLO and bring them to federal court here in the U.S. and try them?
I don't think so. And in fact, there's no longer really a Palestinian Authority. It's all under Israeli occupation right now. So there's really nobody to get the money from, even if they were subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. It's really kind of just an academic exercise at this point, something that, you know, law professors love to get into, but I'm not really sure how it's going to play out for the rest of us.
All right. Well, Bob McWhirter, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.
My great pleasure.